All right, today we're gonna jump gears again a little bit. I've still got a couple projects that need done. I need to get the brakes done on the 1950, although that's not necessarily a has to be done before fall thing. That's a I'd like to get it done before fall thing. I guess technically it is fall. And I got to go over the corn head, but that's not going to take very long. It's mostly just going to be greasing it because last I knew there's nothing wrong with it. And I still have to go over the grain truck, but I'm still waiting on my rims to get blasted. Hopefully those are done this week so I can get tires, because you know we're a week and a half away from October and I still don't have new tires for my grain truck yet. And it's kind of not safe to drive anymore with a load on it because the drive tires on it are getting bad. But anyway, so I got some stuff I need to work on, but I'm like, you know what? It's a really nice early fall day. I got some wheat stubble needs rolled under. I really don't want to be pulling wrenches today. I want some seat time. So I should have had everything ready to go yesterday afternoon, but I was hawing about A, whether I was going to do any plowing today to begin with, and B, which tractor I was going to use. And I was like, you know what? The 1955 has been doing basically all the plowing for the last few years. We're gonna do something a little different today, and I've been saying that I was finally gonna get this plow out and do some plowing with the 77. It just never happened and never happened and never happened. Well, it's finally gonna happen. I don't think this plow has actually ever been on video other than in passing. It's a model 314B, 100% original. We haven't done a thing to it other than put tires on it. And I think that's all we did to it, was put tires on it. But it's still got all of the silk screening on the beams. It's still got the silk screening on the back of the maul boards. There's still... yeah, you can kind of see it. There's still part numbers silk screened onto some of the beams and stuff. There's a really good one right there. And if you look at this, it actually says number 214BH, but basically a 314B is a 214B, which would be these two beams right here with the third set of beams added on, and this truss beam is what makes a 214B into a 314B. So basically it's real easy to figure out. It's 3 14-inch bottoms, hence 314, and the B is a B series plow. So I thought there was actually something, or there was I thought there was actually a stencil on here somewhere on some of the add-on parts that said 314B, but I was looking and I couldn't find it. So, but Dad bought this thing years ago down at Don King's auction in Columbia City, Indiana. And back, I think he gave $350 for it, which back then was, it might not even been that much. It might have been like $250, $275. It was somewhere between like $250 and $350, which back when he bought this was insane money for a trailer plow. Nowadays, in the condition it's in, you probably couldn't touch this plow for less than $500. But back then, that was stupid money, and Dad actually had a cheering section when he bought this thing. So anyhow, we have to get the D-ring put on the tractor. I already tell you how long it's been since that's been out of the barn. It was sitting here. I had to air up all 3 tires because all 3 tires were flat. So, but I've already been over the plow. It's greased, ready to go. The tractor's been fueled up and ready to go. So I just got to get some wrenches so that we can slap a D-ring on there and hook it up, and we're ready to rock and roll. All right. I want to plow this to I want to plow a back furrow on this first part, so I gotta figure out where I'm gonna be at. All right, hold on. All right, to get my back furrow on this front square, and then the triangle will be 1 or 2 more lands depending on how it works out. But here's my center point on this end, and then I got to line up with the corner of that shed. Right down there is going to be my other side, so. And start the back furrow. That goes all the way like that. Fairly easy plowing. Take it off of the transport block. That generally helps. Took a little bit of adjusting. I got it plowing halfway decent, but man, is this ground hard. It's not wanting to go in the ground the greatest, but it is going in. think we've reached the end of our moldboard plowing for the day. I got the top of the hill finished, and even that was kind of meh. And I came down here to try to start working on this, and I can't even get the plow in the ground. I really can't believe the ground is this tight. I mean, we've had a fair bit of moisture. I honestly almost figured I'd come over here and it would be too wet. But man, is it tight. So I guess, well, let me drive up here by the driveway real quick and I'll tell you what else we got going on here. I was not expecting it to be like this. And I'm beginning to wonder if it's the disc in it in the fall that's causing some of this problem. Because discs build roads, that's what they do. That's why I want to get a no-till drill so I don't have to disc ahead of doing wheat. And I would like chisel plow it and then fit it and then plant it. But we do not get the ground conditions around here that time of year. And you would turn it into a muddy mess. You'd never get it right on our ground around here. But anyhow, I wasn't gonna moldboard this whole field anyhow, because I mean I was hoping to get this whole field done. That's obviously not gonna happen, because this is where the loggers were. And when I talked to them, they said, the guy said, when we put our haul road, we're just gonna have one set of tracks, and we're just gonna follow the same set of tracks. And guess what they didn't do? There's a set of tracks here. There's a set of tracks there. The end rows on that field, there was a haul road there because they took some trees out of there. They drove over this centerpiece here to an extent, but the worst of it is there and there. Like it's so compacted that even the weeds wouldn't grow through it. And then you can see all the compaction tracks. Luckily, it's like a 40-foot, 50-foot swat right through the center here. I told them I wanted them to stick along the woods, but that way, which there's a set of tracks going along the woods too, but then they came out here in the center. And then back there by the horse corral where they had their landing. So what this field's gonna have to have happen is I'm gonna have to come over here with the ripper and rip all the tracks that they made, and then this field will get chisel plowed, because you can't moldboard plow behind a ripper, because it's about like trying to re-moldboard already moldboarded ground. What the? Oh, there's a wild turkey right there. Yeah, you can't moldboard plow behind a ripper, because it just, you plug the plow. So what I was hoping would happen is that side would get completely moldboarded, other than I was gonna have to rip the end rows on this side and chisel plow them, because like I say, there was a haul road there. And this side would get chisel plowed, because I wanted to do a comparison side by side of a fall moldboard plow versus fall chisel plow, to try to replicate what happened behind Mom and Dad's this year, where the corn on the moldboarded ground, even in the drought, got like 6 growth stages ahead of the stuff that was on the chisel plowed ground. And came up more even and was a darker green and just looked healthier all throughout that drought period. I'm not hoping for another drought, but I want to see, so I might end up having to pick a different field. The one at Mom and Dad's would be good, but that probably isn't going to get worked this fall because that's getting tiled. So it's going to depend on how long the tile project takes. But anyway, I'm going to go get the plow cleaned up and put away. And I'll see where I'm at for time. We might grab the white and get the ripper and come over here and get this ripped, since it's obviously dry enough to do a good job of ripping. So we'll catch you here in a little bit. All right. Go grab the ripper and we'll really put these new tires to the test. I was really not expecting that ground to be that hard. And the thing about our ground around here, and by around here I mean locally, I mean like it right here. It is the ultimate in 5-minute dirt. And honestly, for moldboard plowing, and actually for a lot of, for heavy tillage in general, even chisel plowing, our ground almost likes to be on the wetter side, like to the point where on a lot of other ground you would want to stay off of it, because that's the only way that you're going to get the plow, whether it be a chisel plow or a moldboard plow or whatever, to go in the ground and stay at a consistent depth, not pull like a boat anchor. And the ground actually crumbles better when it's wetter, believe it or not. That being said, our ground around here is a lot like mixing concrete. It does not take a whole lot of moisture to go from just right to soup, and then you go from a nice, easy pulling, crumbling ground to you're making ribbons, and all you're doing is making a mess that you're never going to be able to beat back into submission to make seed bed out of it. So our ground around here can be a bit of a challenge. That being said, this is also not the time of year where you want to be doing most of your tillage. Normally you'd want to wait till later in the fall or early in the spring when you got plenty of excess moisture going around. So anyhow, off to grab the ripper. Well, this whole day just went to shit in a hurry. I had to stop here at Mom and Dad's because the 3-point was still set for Cat 2 from when I was running the field cultivator. So I'm back up here to the garage, shut it off, get the 3-point set where it needs to be, take off again, get about to the edge of the property there, up the road, and I start to smell something burning. And not a split second later, the dash is just engulfed in smoke, and there's smoke rolling out from underneath the hood. So I shut the tractor. I don't even hit the clutch. I shut the tractor off, and I jump out, and there's smoke rolling out everywhere. And it sits there for a minute, and apparently once I killed power to everything, the wires cooled off and the smoke settled down. And it now this is the jump wire that goes from the amp gauge to the ignition switch. It schmelted. And then the wire that goes from the amp gauge down to the at least I think it's the amp gauge. Anyway, the wire that, the main power wire that goes from up here in the dash all the way down to the starter, smoked, and it's schmelted in multiple spots all the way down through the harness, and it burnt other wires. So it's not even like we could just bypass one wire. I'm gonna have to rip the harness out of it and remake the whole harness from the dash down to the engine, and then from the dash into the, or from the firewall down to the engine, and then from the firewall up into the dash, because there's a plug in the firewall. So neato. That's just what we needed. So anyhow, I think I'm just going to go ahead and call this video here, because that just took all the wind out of my sails. So I guess that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Alright, just a quick ending here. I got the wiring harness, the engine wiring harness stripped out. This is obviously what comes from, well, this here plug goes through the firewall. There's a rubber grommet that holds it in. And then that plugs into it, and this plugs into it, and these three plugs are supposed to be there. And this harness actually, these three go into the engine harness. This orange one here, this long one, is a fuel sending unit. And then these two actually go back to the back of the tractor, and one is, I closed my diagram up. One's hydraulic temperature sending unit. One might be the rear temperature lube, or rear transmission lube pressure switch. But anyway, two of these wires go all the way to the back of the tractor, and they got cut off and are no longer, they are non-existent. Lord knows when that happened. That's part of why I was dreading this, is this harness is so hacked up. But anyway, that and that plug into that plug, and then this goes all the way up to the front of the motor, and it's got your starter wire, and that mess right there is supposed to be the neutral safety switch, which that's going to get eliminated out of the new harness because that neutral safety switch was unhooked, meaning it probably does not work. And I'm not going to put one back in it, so that won't be there. This stuff, mess of stuff here is the starter and the solenoid, and then alternator, and then these go up to some temperature sending units and some warning or low pressure sending units. And then this cluster is the dash engine harness. These two are part of the light harness. This is all ignition stuff. Some of this is light stuff. That's the engine warning buzzer. But it, as you can see, it schmelted there, it schmelted there, there. It melted going through the connector, That's melted all the way down. Something shorted out and got hot, and I'm wondering if it was this wire right here. This is the hot wire coming off of the alternator. This would be the battery wire. That is supposed to be red, but right here somebody just did a quick twisty turny splice. There's not even any solder on it. They just twisted it together and wire taped it together, and that goes out here and turns blue. There are so many splices out on this end of the harness, it's not even funny. Figuring out what is going to be interesting, because A, you got all the wires are faded, so nothing's the right shade of color that it's supposed to be, and then, well, like this wire here goes from what looks like red to yellow back to red out here, and then you got white to blue to whatever color that used to be. Just, you know, God forbid we actually, if we have to splice into a harness, God forbid we get a wire that's at least closely related to the color that it's supposed to be. We'll just throw whatever we got on there. Screw it. So, push come to shove, the harness that's in the parts cab that I have for this tractor appears to be in good shape and complete and not all buttered up. So I should be able to, if nothing else, take the harness out of that cab and not have to worry about making this rat's nest. So that would work out pretty good. And that would mean I just have to make that. But I'm going to go get some part numbers and see if I can find, or see if somewhere in the system there is one of these that exists, new old stock. And maybe I've got lucky before. So hopefully I get lucky again. Otherwise we're going to end up making that harness, but that's better than, if that's the only one I have to make and I don't have to get into this thing, that would be nice. Which this harness wasn't in bad shape until something got hot and this happened. Which, that being said, that it was either that splice, right, because I think it was this right here was actually exposed. It was either that or this right here where it's oxidized. One of those two spots was exposed when I took it all apart. It was either that wire or this wire had to get hot. But anyway, they're both probably going to end up, they weren't fused to begin with. I'm probably going to put fuses in them, just to make sure that this never happens ever again. So, but first we got to see what we come up with. So I guess you know what the next project's going to be, at least for the next few days, depending on what I come up with for parts. So anyhow, I guess if it had to happen, I'm glad it happened right there. And I'm glad it happened when the weather's nice, so we can work on it and not be freezing our asses off in the winter. Or I'm glad it didn't happen out in the middle of a field in the middle of BFE, and then you got a dead tractor 10 miles from home in the middle of a field that you got to figure out, either are you going to work on it in the middle of the field, which wouldn't be fun, or how you going to get a dead tractor back here. Because I mean, before I took the harness apart, if you click the key on, you did have ignition power, but I was not man enough to try to start it and drive it back down here. It was halfway up the hill, I clutched it, and it had enough momentum that it coasted back down here to the corner. And I stopped because it was still smoking, and Dad grabbed the fire extinguisher, and we started looking, and looked, by that time, the fire, or whatever, the heat, the smoke had subsided, thank God. And then we took the forklift and pushed it to where it is. Luckily, it still steers with no power. It steers hard, but it does still steer. So that's all the further it made it. But that at least gets it out of the way. And like I say, hopefully I can come up with just a new old stock wiring harness that's just plug and chug. And then this will go really quick and really easy. But if not, so anyway, that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.